Welcome back to another episode of SOTI TV. We got an exciting agenda for you today where we're going to be diving into the world of wearables. And to do that, we have a very special guest with us today. The man, the myth, the legend, Balhar. He's a senior solutions architect at ProGlove. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be back.
It feels like it's been a little while. I think we have a little history together.
Just a little bit, yeah. I'm actually a former SOTI employee myself. It was 30 people when I started.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I joined when there was 151, so I think you got a couple of years on me.
Just a little, 2008.
2008, wow. Well, you said when there was 30 people joining.
Yep.
Wow. You know SOTI's turning 30 this year?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Doesn't seem like it.
You've come full circle.
Full circle, yeah.
All the way back at our HQ, eh?
Always end up back where you started.
How is it reminiscent of being back here?
It's a lot bigger than it used to be. I think when I started,
A little bit.
The entire office was the size of this studio.
All right. Oh, Balhar, I mean, I'd love to know, like, what's been your journey after SOTI?
Yeah, for sure. So started SOTI, I was hired to build the UK market for sales. And as I did that, we hired NASA at the time. Took over the UK, so I went on to build over the rest of Europe, and then ended up being the sales manager for basically everything except America. And then ended up being in the strategic alliances team, and I managed the Motorola/Zebra relationship.
I remember that. That was one of our big forays.
Yeah, we spent 4 years building that to the best it could be, and I left SOTI. I went to VMware, where again I was a director of strategic alliances. I left from there, I did some private consulting, still poking around in the MDM space, and in 2019 I ended up at ProGlove.
I love that.
Started as a sales guy.
Natural.
The other salespeople kept on asking me technical questions because I have a technical mind, and I was basically spending so much time helping the other sales guys not hitting my own number. I told the VP of sales, hire another sales guy and building a pre-sales team, which is what we did.
I love that. I got to tell you, I just remember the SOTI days, and I remember you had a little putting green in your office.
I did.
And I remember the first time I moved down to the sales floor, I was walking around and I'm like, this is amazing. You got little golf tournaments going on in the middle of the day. I mean, it was some exciting times.
Yeah, it was a fun place to work.
Did it help you with your golf game long term?
Not at all.
It's a journey, right? Well, listen, so now that you're at ProGlove, I mean, it's really been so interesting, because I think one of the things that you mentioned is, like, you know, the whole MDM, EMM space, the whole mobility space. I got to tell you, like, it really feels, it's a small circle. You're meeting so many of the people that have moved around at different organizations, but I feel like that market has really been constrained to quite a few individuals. I think we're all familiar with. Like, do you see the same thing in your journey?
Absolutely, and you know, it's not just the MDM space; it's the entire AIDC scanning space. There's only a few main players left, and you'll meet the same person who's working at a competitor or at a supplier or at a reseller, but it's a pretty close space.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm at so many events, and I always see the ProGlove booth. I always see you guys having that global presence, collaboration with many different manufacturers and vendors. So it's been quite exciting from our side too.
Yeah, one of the main things we tried to do at SOTI, and when I was here, and you guys still do, and one of the things we tried to do at ProGlove is make sure we're working with partners, vendors, ISVs, resellers to make sure that you're building a solution, not just a product.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be diving into that a little bit in today's episode, I think.
A little bit of preview there.
So let's go through the rundown of what we're going to go through today's episode. We're going to introduce you to ProGlove and hear from Balhar about all the amazing things that ProGlove is doing. We're going to talk about the evolution of wearables from the early days to where we are today and some of the amazing modern devices that we're seeing. We're going to talk a little bit about how SOTI and ProGlove work together and how we're building that end-to-end solution for manufacturing, for warehouses to be able to really dive into optimizing their operations. And then we're going to wrap up with talking about the future of wearables. Where's all this going? What are the newest trends? And really help you understand where the complete market's going. Now, before we get into that, Balhar, we have a little game that we like to play on SOTI TV to get you a little comfortable before we start diving into these topics. It's called Rapid Fire Round. All right, so how does this work? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You're going to give me a quick answer, whatever comes off the top of your head, and I might give you a little bit of my thoughts about what I think of your answers. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
All right, let's kick it off. What do you think is the most overhyped tech trend right now?
Honestly, artificial intelligence.
Okay.
I think it's very important. It's coming, it's helping in a lot of ways, but everybody's talking about it, but I think only 10% of the people understand what it's actually going to be able to do.
Yep. Big data, blockchain analytics, data-driven decisions.
Big data's always been there. The problem with data is not having the data, it's being able to put it in a consumable format that makes sense for people and companies. Maybe AI will help with that as well as other things.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, right? Like I think AI is so amazing. There are so many things that it can do, but I think it's really putting it around the box of what it can do today, right? We're in the age of agentic AI, which I think is quite interesting. But as you said, I think there's a lot of hype about it that I'm willing to see where it lives up to.
Yeah, because people talk about AI helping them do their homework, right? But you could take every cancer research paper that was ever published anywhere in the world, put it through AI and tell AI to look for trends and patterns.
Yeah.
And that's something that would take a human years to do.
Agreed.
And that, I think, should be the initial focus of what, that's where AI is going to help us.
Agreed.
I'm not worried about Terminator Salvation type stuff. Not for now.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay, I got to ask you, and this comes up. Will smart glasses ever be cool?
No. Smart glasses have a place in the world. I wouldn't go so far as to call them cool. Augmented reality is certainly, it's something that's there. It has its place in the business world. I think it's more popular, obviously, for entertainment. There's some evolving to do if it's going to be actually useful in the business world for things like picking and scanning and things like that.
Yeah. All right, I got one last one for you. What's one gadget that you wish existed today that doesn't?
Time travel would be cool. Teleportation. As far as in the business space, in the AIDC space, I think we're getting close to a space where we can do a lot of different things. So, for example, a lot of the wearable devices, especially the ProGlove stuff, not only has screens on them, they have sensors on them. So you can track how far people are walking, how hard they're working, how often they're lifting above their head, and things like that. So I think the ability to like SOTI has gone from being a device management company to being a holistic data and more company. ProGlove is going from being a wearable scanner company to being a wearable solutions company. And I think we're going to see that coming pretty soon.
So I think that's a perfect transition for us to really dive in and understand, what does ProGlove do? What do you guys offer? And why are customers out there really adopting your technology?
Sure, yeah. So ProGlove is, primarily a wearable barcode scanning company. And the big thing about ProGlove is the scanner sits on the back of the hand, not on your fingers, not on the wrist. So it really gives you true mobility. Not just gives you both your hands, but all 10 fingers. So you can do, piecework, you can build things, et cetera, et cetera. And it started, our founders were engineers at BMW.
I love German engineering.
I know you do. And they noticed that people are spending almost as much time scanning barcodes and parts that they're going to install on the car than they were actually installing on the car itself. Picking up scanner, scan something, put the scanner down, go back for the part, install it, and figure there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, there's a genuine need, it sounds like.
Genuine need, noticed a gap, entered a wearable technology competition, won a little bit of money from that, seed money, started a company, and 12 years later, here we are at the forefront of wearable technology.
I love that. And when we talk about the level of optimization, when we talk about really how the ProGlove technology will really impact, let's say, warehousing, for an example, can you give us an idea of the kind of savings, the kind of efficiency gains that customers can come to expect from adopting, the ProGlove technology?
Absolutely. So, it's been tracked, and you can see that customers are saving, between 4 and 12 seconds per pick. So if you imagine how many picks a customer is doing within a warehouse per day, that's a lot of savings. We actually have a Guinness Book of World Records that we did at NRF for the fastest time to pick 50 products and put them in boxes. And that was done. That was done by somebody on our marketing team, and it's in the Guinness Book of Records today.
You guys breaking records. I love that. Not every day we have a world Guinness record holder with us in SOTI TV.
There we go. So it's not just the speed; it's also the lightweight. So our scanners weigh like 1.6 ounces. Which is something in the range of 25, 26 ounces lighter than the brick-on-a-stick traditional scanners you would get. And there's a lot of ergonomic savings there. So, if you're scanning 1,000 times a day and you switch to a ProGlove, that's 25,000 ounces you're not lifting.
Wow.
And 32,000 ounces is a ton.
So you're even talking about employee productivity and their well-being at the same time.
100%. So, we would always go in and look at a customer, and customers would ask, well, how fast is it? How much is it going to save me on time? Customers are also asking now, am I going to save on injuries? Am I going to save on repetitive strain, et cetera, et cetera?
I love that. And I think one of the things that also comes to mind for myself is also potentially the savings even on the hardware side for batteries, right? Like when you're not using the device to scan, it can actually prolong the life of the devices in terms of lasting a full shift, getting more productivity out of it.
Absolutely. So, the traditional way of using a ProGlove scanner is you would pair it to an Android device or a computer of some sort or an iPhone or whatever it might be. But that device that you had that's running your WMS now doesn't have to be running the screen the entire time because the scanning is happening on the back of your hand. And the ProGlove scanner, depending on which one you get, it will do a 2 hours to charge it from 0 to 100 and then do 12,000 scans before it needs charging again. So battery efficiency is definitely on the forefront of the technology here.
I love that. And you kind of alluded to this, but from SOTI's perspective, we work with Apple, Android, Windows, Linux. We work with a multitude of different systems. And I've had the chance to work with your team for quite some time. Can you just expand a little bit more about the platforms that ProGlove supports today?
Sure. So ProGlove will basically connect to anything that's running a barcode scanner. So anything that has Bluetooth, you can pair our scanners to. We have the new one coming out that's going to be released next month called the My. That actually has Wi-Fi capability built in as well, so that can connect directly to a backend. And we've done integrations, with various ISVs, including SOTI, over the years to make sure that the end customers are getting the best overall solutions.
I love that. So they can really choose the best technology that works for them. They can pair the ProGlove with it. So it seems like you guys really have the whole gamut of platforms covered.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is that a customer might have a big rugged device that they're using today. And the reason it's big and rugged is because you drop it all the time because you're scanning all the time. But once the scanner's on the back of the hand and you're not, picking up the Android to scan with all the time, you can buy a smaller, lighter one. And that then saves the customer money and time on the back end as well.
Balhar, I think that's a perfect segue into our next section about the evolution of wearables, right? And there's so many new things coming out. We can see a lot of different devices that are getting into the market. But before we get into that, I brought a little device that I think both of us are familiar with, the WT4000. Remember this from the inventory room?
I remember those.
I'm going to try to put this on. We lost the strap over the last 10 years, but I think I'm going to still be able to bring it on here. And oh my God, this thing actually powered on and it's still got remote desktop on it still. It takes me 10 years back, I swear to God.
That's awesome.
I remember when we still had to check these out from the inventory room. Remember they had the bags for them?
Yep.
And they'd always ask for the bags back.
They would always ask for the bag back.
You'd never bring them back. Why did you keep stealing the bags?
Just trying to save the world, recycling.
But I got to tell you, you look at 10 years ago, this kind of technology, this scanner, this ring scanner, and we fast forward to today with some of the amazing things that we're seeing. Tell me a little bit more about how are you seeing this evolution, right? Because I got to tell you, I'm seeing a little similarity here.
Definitely some similarities, definitely some differences. So, what you have there is a wearable computer and a wearable scanner.
Okay.
And they're not the same thing.
Okay.
They go together. Mm-hmm. So on your forearm there is the wearable computer, and that actually does all the brains of the organization.
Like a cyborg with this thing on.
And then the scanner part is what's on your finger.
Okay.
So what ProGlove has done is taken those two things and separated them.
Okay.
So the wearable computer part of it doesn't have to be a wearable computer. That could be an Android device that's in your pocket. It could be an iPhone. It could be a forklift mount. It could be, on a cart. Doesn't matter. What ProGlove is doing is taking the scanning part of the solution and putting it on the back of your hand, so that it gives you your hands back.
Okay.
And through the years, we've gone from what you're seeing there to, ProGlove has these scanners that look like this, goes on the back of a hand, and evolved into having ones that have screens on them, so it can tell you right on the back of the hand, go to this location, find this product, pick this menu, so you don't have to keep looking at the forklift or pulling your Android out. And then we've ended up with what's coming out soon, ProGlove My.
So that's the latest and greatest.
This is the latest and greatest. So this guy has a full color touch screen, buttons on the side for interactions. This will tell you what you need to do, where you need to go, how many you need to get. You can do exceptions, you can do inputs, you can do all kinds of things on this guy. So you don't actually need to go back to your handheld at all. And this is what we're now, this is going from a wearable scanner to a wearable companion. And the goal is to keep the human at the center of the of the workflow,
Yep.
and then empower that human to do better and be better with their job. So not only has it got a scanner in it, it has an accelerometer in it. We can tell how far people are walking, how often they're lifting above their heads, et cetera, et cetera. So you can tie it to the back end of our ProGlove Insight tool, see where your hotspots are within the warehouse, see where you've got any traffic jams, et cetera, et cetera.
I love that. And we were playing around with it a little bit before we kicked off the episode, but I think for our viewers out there, I want to put it a little bit to the test.
Absolutely.
All right. So we printed out a few barcodes here, and we're going to do a little target practice.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to hold this up for you. Okay. Don't shoot me in the eye.
So for the people at home, I have on my here a little demo that I'm going to run. So I'm going to select that I'm going to start the tools pick, and it's going to tell me which bin I need to scan right now. So I need to scan 1003, and for example, if I scan the wrong one, it tells me I got the wrong one, and I can try again by clicking try again, or I can just scan, or I can double click my trigger to say I'm going to try again. So if I actually do scan 1003, if I can find it here, it now tells me, great, you've scanned 1003, now you need to scan the wrench bolts, because that's what you need to pick from that bin. So, all right, I'm going to get the wrench bolts, which I can't see that far. I think it's that one. Good. Now it's telling me to scan bin 2000, but if I go ahead and scan bin 2000, now it's telling me I need to pick one of the dowels, but let's say I don't have any dowels. I don't need to go back to my computer. I don't need to go back to the forklift. I can just click right here and say, there's no stock available. And it tells me, okay, great. Go to the next pick, which is bin 1001. I scan that. And it's telling me now to scan the screws 4x60, which if I do that, there it is. So it tells you right on the back of the hand, you don't need to go back to your mobile computer. You don't need to go back to the forklift. What am I doing? Where am I getting it? All the exceptions. This is the future of wearables as we see it today, and it's evolving, as we go.
I gotta tell you, you're gonna have a few snipers run for their money.
Yeah, it's some people, the trigger is just here on the thumb, so some people call it the Spider-Man, but some people call it the Buzz Lightyear.
I like it. I like it. What really stood out to me there's you've talked about the workflow. Right? It's something that you're being shown exactly what to do at any given time. So I think one of the other areas is you now can take an employee who's in their first week at the warehouse and their whole workflow is mapped out just with a computer on their hand, right? So using the ProGlove equipment, they know exactly what they need to do throughout the day. So I would imagine there's also customers that are actually able to reduce their ramp up time for new employees and potentially some complex orders that need to be picked in a certain capacity.
Absolutely. So, not only can you program this, and this is just running, whatever's already running in your WMS, not only can you have it tell the end user what to do or where to go, but you can actually put instructions in. So, it might say straight away, bin 1001, but a new employee might not know what that means.
Exactly, yeah.
So they could just swipe to the side. Let me just show again. They can swipe to the side and it can show them more information or less information and actually give them instructions of what to do. Maybe this is a photograph of the thing that need to pick. So, if you're...
So that's the new feature, the newest version you guys are coming out with.
Absolutely. So, maybe you're in a grocery store and you're picking chips. Well, the chip aisle goes forever. So it actually shows you a picture of the kind of chips that you need to pick. You know exactly what to get.
I love that. Honestly, we look at today's environments, workflow and efficiency is what's really going to make or break the bottom line for a lot of these organizations, right? And looking at this kind of technology that they're now starting to embrace and adopt, I think that's what's going to get them to that next level, keep them competitive, and really have the best customer experience at the end of the day.
I absolutely agree. And, the end user experience is something that's vital importance if you want to actually succeed.
I think that's why both of us stay employed, right? If it wasn't for the end consumer, what are we here for? Well, listen, we talked a lot about some interesting things, but the next area I want to dive into is how does ProGlove and SOTI work together, right? We've had an amazing relationship over the last 5 years. We know there's a big market that we're all going after. But I want to dive into this a little bit more. As I said, I've had the pleasure of working with your team at many different events on many different customer engagements. But for our viewers out there, let's really help them understand how the SOTI technology stack and the ProGlove technology stack really brings the best possible solutions for those customers out there and for the end users.
Yeah, absolutely. So, traditionally our scanners, mostly we pair with Android devices that are out there. Customers, a lot of them have Android scanners already.
Yep.
they'll pair a ProGlove to their existing Android scanners and then put that Android scanner down so they can do the scanning with the ProGlove. And a lot of our customers use Mobi Control to push out the ProGlove app, send out configurations, et cetera, et cetera. We actually have a SOTI environment internally that we test with every time we update our software to make sure it's compatible and pushing out settings and things like that in the background. But also we have integrated with SOTI Surf.
Yes.
So what you're seeing on the wearable scanner here is just a reflection of what's happening on your Android device. But that requires a little bit of integration, because how does this know what your WMS wants to show?
I know we worked on a couple of different ways to do enterprise integration, as you said, around the SOTI Surf architecture.
Exactly. So because SOTI Surf is an industrial browser, the APIs are there that a user can actually just say that, hey, if I'm seeing this on my SOTI Surf screen, I want to echo it on the back of my hand. So anytime I see the words location, quantity, things like that, I want to echo them on the back of the hand, and that integration is something that's already put together between SOTI Surf and ProGlove.
Yeah, and I think for our viewers out there, I just want to help them understand, when we talk about SOTI Surf, so SOTI Surf is an enterprise-grade browser. So it's not even just about having the browsing technology, but it's the security around it, right? Like when we talk about the warehouse, I think it's also about making sure that employees stay on task, so we can actually limit what they're able to do within the browser, where they can go, what web pages or web apps they need to get to, as well as providing the right connectivity channels, whether it be through VPNs or other communication channels to get to those back-on warehouse management systems. So at the end of the day, the employee is just empowered to do what they need to do, not try to figure out how to use different parts of the browser and things like that. So I think that was quite exciting for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, obviously the security of the Android or the Windows devices or the Apple devices or whatever it might be is paramount to something that SOTI is at a cornerstone of in the beginning. On the ProGlove side, we see that as well. So there's a lot of shrinkage in any warehouse. So you get customers that even if they're using the big brick on a sticks or computers, laptops, things are going missing all the time. So ProGlove has made the best wearable, lightest scanner in the world, but it's easy to lose.
Yeah.
So we've actually got some tips and tricks and stuff that we've built into our own tools that allow you to geofence devices, have them alarm if they're going off track or if they're leaving where they're supposed to be, if they're not connected for a certain amount of time. We can even have them send out Bluetooth beacons. So you'll get an alert that, hey, this scanner is not charging and it's not connected, it's idle, and it's in this part of the warehouse, and you can actually then go out and track it. So reducing the shrinkage is something that's very important as well.
Yeah, I mean, like for us, like we always hear customers talking about security, loss prevention, and I love how you've touched on that, because you need your complete technology stack to really be efficient. If you lose any part of that, you're not going to be able to do your job, right? So I love to hear that ProGlove is, really bringing a lot of these things together to prevent lost or stolen devices. And from SOTI's side, when we kind of bring the whole architecture together, is being able to do the same thing on the mobile device side, locate devices, indoor location, Bluetooth connectivity provisioning, you said geofencing devices. So when we really use the SOTI and ProGlove solution set together, you do have a heavy focus on security, loss prevention, and negating the need to buy additional devices, as you said, because shrinkage is just something that's going to naturally happen within warehousing and retail from what we've seen as well. When we look at kind of what else, really sits within the ProGlove infrastructure, I would say around security, where are you seeing customers ask you about security, specifically about using the ProGlove hardware, or how it can help them level up their security?
So again, one of the biggest concerns is, hey, we're already losing the Android scanners that we have. This thing is tiny, how are we going to stop it from getting lost? Some of that might be malicious, some of it's not, but there'll be many times where I'll have been on a customer demo, I've shown off the scanner, I continue working, and 2 hours later I go for lunch, I go to wash my hands, I'm still wearing it because it doesn't weigh anything, you just forget. So the ability to be able to have a device alarm if it gets too far away, being able to track it through the portal. So ProGlove's got a Insight portal. You can actually configure that so it can track your scanners when they're in the chargers. You can track your scanners when they're connected to your mobile devices. So you'll be able to look at your fleet and say, these 100 scanners are on charge at the back of the warehouse. These 30 are at charge at the front of the warehouse. These 20 are in use, and these 3 are just idle somewhere. And maybe this one hasn't been seen for 3 days. So giving the ability to track that, alert that kind of thing, and then send emails to the right people is something that's very important to us.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for our viewers out there, like to kind of really bring this all together, right? Like We also talk about seasonal workers, which I know is a topic that's come up quite some time, and especially prevalent in warehousing. Like, we're going through garden season right now. You obviously have, Christmas shopping season. You have a lot of uptime, and a lot of the time, these organizations need to onboard thousands of employees, right? In the case of some of the largest retailers out there, you're talking about 50, 60,000 seasonal workers. So when we look at the complete solution set, you're talking about getting those devices ready to go in action. So provisioning the mobile hardware, whether it's Android, iOS, or Windows, and then pairing the additional peripherals, the ProGlove solution set to those devices, and really ensuring that with minimal time, you can have those 10, 20, 30, 50,000 plus employees ready to go with the right hardware, with the right solution set, with the right application set on their devices to be able to meet those organizational requirements, especially in those critical peak seasons that we see across many retailers and many warehousing operations.
Yeah, and like you said, getting them onboarded quickly is key. You don't have time to 6 weeks to train people when it's only a 3-week busy period.
Exactly.
So, the ability to use something like Mobi Control to push out all the apps and, updates and things that need to happen, training documents can go right out. But, 15 years ago, it was harder for an individual to get into a warehouse and then use a mobile computer for scanning because they didn't use mobile computers in their everyday life.
Exactly.
Today, everybody's got a phone, a smartphone. You know what it looks like. You know what the interface is like. So the evolution
fits in your pocket.
Yeah, and the evolution, even from the scanning industry, has been to move towards a more user-friendly interface. And if the user doesn't need to use the interface at all and they can just scan, quote unquote blind, it makes it that much quicker to onboard them.
I gotta say, you perfectly segued into our next topic, which is really the future of wearables, right? Like, where are we now seeing the future of different wearable technologies? And we're seeing so many different wearable technologies, right? Like, one of the things that I wanted to kind of call out, right? Like, we're seeing augmented reality that we previously touched on. We're seeing some smart glasses. One of the things I dove into recently is the exoskeleton. That was just mind-blowing to me, the kind of things that you're seeing there. But at the top right, you're really seeing how this comes together. An employee could be empowered with a smart helmet, the exoskeleton, the AR glasses, the powered glove, as we've talked about, different sensors. Where are you seeing the future of wearables going?
I think it's going to be a mix of all these technologies, and it's not going to be one answer for all of it. So, for example, ProGlove has interface with wearable with AR technology with the glasses. So if you look at somebody like Vuzix, TeamViewer, RealWear, things like that, ProGlove has interface with these devices. So an individual could be wearing the glasses, and it's leading them to where they need to go. And it's hard to visualize this, but they could be walking down an aisle, and the thing they need to pick is lit up in green on their glasses.
Oh wow!
And when they get there, the glasses have a camera to scan, but it's much easier to scan it with a real barcode scanner. So they'll scan it with the ProGlove. It'll tell them that it got the right thing. It'll show them on the glasses. Okay, put it in this bin. Move on to the next thing. Technology didn't really take off a lot because there's a lot of different moving parts.
Of course, yeah.
When it comes to the ergonomic side of things, like I said, the ProGloves have accelerometers in them. So you can actually see how far people are moving their arms, how often they're lifting, how heavy they're lifting, things like that. So I think it's going to be a mix of all the different technologies coming together. And as technology progresses, you have the ability to make it smaller and smaller and better and better. We couldn't have built the Mi 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The technology didn't exist. The software didn't exist. The chips didn't exist. Now with Android AR coming along, it's going to be even better.
I mean, I love that you mentioned that. I was actually at the Android Enterprise Summit a couple of weeks ago in London, and they were talking about Android XR, right, which is really that whole idea of augmented reality, the introduction of Gemini, AI assistant based. And that was kind of one of the first areas where I started thinking, I'm like, you're going to get these wearables, you're going to get these augmented reality glasses, but this barcoding technology and things like that, it just has to work, right? You have to make sure that you have the right capabilities, you have the right workflows. So that's kind of where my mind went to right away, is that level of integration, whether it be Android XR, Apple Vision Pro, there's Microsoft's doing a lot of things with HoloLens. I think that's definitely an interesting thing, and it's great to hear that you're already looking at integrating with those, and potentially already integrated with some of them, it sounds like.
Absolutely, and trying to make the technology replace the procedure is, I think, where a lot of people are failing. You need to make the person that's doing the job more efficient.
100%.
Give them more tools, give them better tools, not necessarily more tools.
Yeah.
And that's why with the ProGloves, for example, we decided to stick with the template-based approach on the Mi, because now it doesn't matter what you connect that to. You could connect it to an Android, connect it to an iPhone, connect it to a PC. The templates are there to show you exactly what it is you need to know. I don't need a full Windows or a full Android interface on the back of my hand.
Yep.
I just need to know, this is what I need to know in this exact moment.
Yep. And I got to tell you, like, it's so interesting. We actually explored this topic in one of the previous episodes of SOTI TV, is humans with versus humans without AI, right? And we talk about AI replacing humans, but to us, we really see that it won't be AI replacing humans. It'll be humans that embrace and become enabled with AI will be replacing the humans that don't, right? And I think that to me is, that's going to be supported by a multitude of different technologies, services, process optimization. So I think it's definitely something where I'm seeing the industry going into.
Yeah, the people that are adopting technology are going to be ahead of the people that are not, and that's always been the case, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we're all automated to one way or another in the next couple of years. But I got to ask you one other thing, and I think this is going to be one of the very interesting topic for our viewers. We're hearing a lot about RFID, right? And I got to ask you, if I have an RFID chip everywhere, it's in my products, it's in there, but why do I still need to scan barcodes, right? If the future is RFID, where is barcode technology sitting?
Because the future is not RFID. RFID and barcode scanning are in the same realm, but they're not the same thing.
Okay.
Today, if you look at RFID, it's very powerful. There's a lot of good use cases. It's used all over the world, both for consumer and for industrial uses. When it comes to mobility, you could put, and there are people out there that have RFID scanners in mobile format, but the range of them, the power of them, the power of the chip that they can scan, it's limited by the technology of today. By the time you get to a point where you want to scan something from 3, 4, 5 feet away, you end up back at a handheld RFID scanner. The technology is definitely getting there, and it'll get to a point where you do have good, reliable, practical RFID wearable scanners. But you're not going to put an RFID chip in everything. When you're going to buy a pack of gum and it costs under $1, you're not going to have an RFID chip or an RFID tag on it.
Yeah.
So the barcode is still going to be there. It'll be there for a long time. There might be a situation where the technologies, overlap, maybe even potentially merge, but I think we're a ways from that. But I don't think it's safe to say either one of them is the future. I think they're both a part of the future, and and maybe a technology that we don't know exists yet.
Yeah, and I think you really hit the nail on the head, right? Because when we look at the complete logistics chain, right? While RFID and barcoding is obviously used throughout the logistics chain in many different areas, I also think it depends, as you said, where in the logistics chain is the technology being used, right? Like when you have that pack of gum, it might not have the RFID sensor, but maybe the pallet of gum does, right? But we also go back all the way to the manufacturing factories, and we all know not industries adapt and evolve the same way. So at certain part of the logistics chain, they might still be relying on barcodes, potentially because of price, because of lack of technology, lack of regulatory compliance in certain industries and things like that. So I think it is really interesting. Some of the same mindset is you really have to have the best blend of these both technologies to meet the requirements from factory to distribution to warehouse to store shelf. You got to have the right technology at the right time at that point. And I definitely think there will be evolution in both sides of the house on there, right?
Yeah, I think a mistake that people make is trying to use the same technology from end to end, and it needs to be a blend of technologies.
100%, and I think that's also what kind of really brings it all together, right? With the solution like ProGlove, you're not needing to look at multiple devices, as you mentioned, right? As we will all be enabled with more technology, it streamlines the workflow. It streamlines what an individual has to do on a day-to-day basis. And you said, just be way more productive. And when you realize those productivity gains, you're doing more with the same amount of resources, or in some cases, even less resources, which I think is giving a lot of organizations out there that competitive edge, that ability to really be able to innovate and not have to go above and beyond their available budget year over year.
Yeah, increasing productivity is the cornerstone of where customers are going to be able to put black ink on the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I got to say, Balhar, this has been an exciting discussion with us today. I think it's absolutely amazing what you guys are doing. I've loved our partnership. I see a lot of work and evolution in the space, and I think there's going to be some really great things that are going to be happening over the next few years. So we're going to have to get you back on to talk about what's next for ProGlove.
Happy to. Great.
I love it.
Thanks for having me on.
So Balhar, if our viewers want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
Best way is get on LinkedIn, look for ProGlove, look for Balhar Dosangh, and you'll find me there.
I love that. Well, again, thank you for joining us today. And for our viewers out there, if you liked what you saw today, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.